Good morning, folks. Let's see if I can get a full screen on there. There you go. Good morning, everyone. Oh, look at you. You're all waiting for me here. Good morning. Okay, so today I'm going to try to get right into it and not chatter too much. I'm sharing with you one of my favorite recipes, but also beyond just the recipe itself, it's the concepts that I want you to take home here too. You're going to see me doing a lot of things that you can use in your medicine making, in your product making. So hopefully you'll get a whole lot of information out of this. Please let me know in the comments, either if you're here with me live this morning, I'll try to answer them in real time, or if you're watching this in a replay, I will try to be really mindful about coming and checking on those and answering your questions afterwards. So let's get started. We're making a lotion. So a lotion is an emulsification. It is a combining of oils and waters. You combine oils and waters, and you know they don't mix together. If you just throw oil and water together in a jar and you shake it up, they're going to separate out. So one of the key concepts here then is emulsification. Now, there are a number of different ways to emulsify oils and waters. The lovely recipe, this is an alternate recipe to what we're going to be using today. Classic recipe is Rosemary Gladstar's Perfect Cream recipe. If you look at that recipe, it uses beeswax as the primary emulsifier. Now, you'll see online, people will say, beeswax is absolutely not an emulsifier. No. Well, if you make Rosemary Gladstar's recipe, beeswax absolutely acts as an emulsifier. Now, I don't use that recipe for this because that recipe is a 1-to-1 ratio of oils and waters with beeswax in there. And so it makes a very rich, thick cream. It's really lovely as an intensive moisturizer. It's not so lovely if you want something light. It's not so lovely for people who don't like that heavy consistency. It's also not so lovely if you are making it in front of classes and you're in a hurry and you don't follow the steps exactly. It can break. It can separate out. That emulsion, very carefully bringing together those oils and waters, can separate out again if you don't follow directions exactly. If you have ever made a hollandaise sauce or a mayonnaise at home, you know, and it's broken, you know that pain. Or if you've made Rosemary's recipe and you've had it break, you know that pain. So I like to use a product called emulsifying wax for this. Emulsifying waxes are better for use when you're making lotions or if you just want to not fuss about it because they emulsify, because they're made to marry oils and waters together. So emulsifying wax, you'll see here on the board behind me, I have the recipe for the formula we're going to be making today. And you'll see that right here, we have emulsifying wax NF. NF stands for National Formulary. So the emulsifying wax, there's a lot of different recipes for emulsifying wax. There's a lot of different products that are called emulsifying wax available for purchase, and they have lots of different formulas to them, and they have different amounts that are used in the recipe. So you want to be mindful about what you're getting. If you're getting emulsifying wax NF, it's a combination of 2 ingredients, cetyl alcohol and polysorbate 60. So polysorbate 60 is a true emulsifier. That's what's doing the heavy lifting. Hi, Teresa from Georgia. Welcome. Danielle, hello. And Jocelyn and Crystal. It's been hours since I've seen you, Crystal. And Michelle, good morning, plant people. And Jody, you're so kind, Jody. Good to see you again. I got distracted by seeing friends. Yay, friends. What was I saying? Emulsifying wax. So Polysorbate 60 is the primary emulsifier. So polysorbate 60 is a unique molecule that has a hydrophilic, let's look at that word, hydro meaning water, and philic, Philic. I can't use my dry erase board because I have the recipe on there. Philic, when you see philic as a suffix to a word, that means loving, right? Phile. A bibliophile is someone who loves books. An Anglophile is someone who loves things from England. A hydrophilic compound is something that loves water, right? It's drawn chemically, it's drawn to water. So polysorbate 60 has a hydrophilic end, and it also has a lipophilic end. Lipo meaning oils. Philic, we know. So a lipophilic end loves oils, and a hydrophilic end loves waters. That allows it to bring them together, to marry those together and make them combine and not split apart again. So polysorbate 60 is, it's made from a sugar alcohol, sorbitol, which is chemically converted into this emulsifier. It is a safe product for use in skin. There are polysorbate products. You'll see a number of different polysorbates in ingredient listings. So there's polysorbate 20 and 60 and 80 are the three primary polysorbates that are used. Polysorbate 80 has some potential problems with it. Some people say it's safe. Some people say it is an irritant and a possibly problematic ingredient. Polysorbate 60 is assumed to be really quite safe. It is considered to be safe by most guidelines that we use for safety. Nonetheless, it is a synthetic product. If you want to use something that is natural, use Rosemary Gladstar's recipe. You can find it anywhere on the internet, and use the beeswax. There are also emulsifiers that use a little bit of boric acid. A very small amount of boric acid can help with emulsification. You can use lecithin. There's a number of other things. They generally tend to be not as effective, and I don't think they have any more of a safety profile than using emulsifying wax NF. So polysorbate 60 is I'm making a lotion. Yes, that's right, Teresa. So polysorbate 60 is one of the ingredients in emulsifying wax, and the other one is cetyl alcohol. Now, this, and again, people look at the name and think, oh, it's an alcohol. Alcohols are drying to the skin, and I don't want to add alcohols. Well, when we talk about alcohols in a chemical sense, an alcohol is just any structure that has what's called a hydroxyl group added to it. So there are alcohols like alcohol that are absolutely drying to the skin, but cetyl alcohol is what we call a fatty alcohol. It's an emollient. It softens the skin, softens the hair, reduces static, and it increases the viscosity, the lovely thickness, and the really luxuriant feel that a lotion will have. So absolutely safe, natural products. Cetyl alcohol is cetyl alcohol and stearic alcohol combined together to make a product. So emulsifying wax NF is just cetyl alcohol and polysorbate 60 combined together to make an emulsifier. Very safe, very clean, good to use. There are options available. So we're going to use an emulsifying wax to emulsify oils and waters. So then the next part of the recipe comes up. What oils and what waters do we want to use? Now, if you're making just a basic lotion, right, nothing else but just a lotion, all you would need is water and an oil and emulsifying wax. And you would blend them together in the exact format that we're going to use right now. And you would make a lotion. It's just oil and water together. You apply it to the skin, and it has the benefits of oil and the benefits of water stabilized in an emulsifying wax, and that would be lovely. However, we know as herbalists that both oil and water are really valuable solvents for extraction of herbal or nourishing constituents into them, right? So anytime you have a recipe where there's oil or water, you can always ask yourself, can I, instead of using just a plain oil, plain distilled water, can I infuse those with herbs? Can I infuse those with nutrients? And then use that as your formula? And the answer is yes, absolutely you can. In addition, where there's water, we can use other compounds. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more as I do the recipe, because I'm trying to be super mindful of the time. So, as our oil, we are going to use a kava and ginger infused oil, which is one of my favorite products to use on my skin. Kava is a warming, stimulating, acrid, antispasmodic herb. We use it for relaxation of tight, chronically tight, cold, stagnant muscles, right? When you have that tight muscle, like right in the back, right under the scapula, I get them all the time. Those tight muscles, they just make those knots and they never leave. They're just hanging out there. And you need something to go in and just blast those, just break through that stagnation, that cold, that tightness. And so acrid plants are generally antispasmodic. Most of the really strong plants that we use to relieve spasticity of skeletal muscles have that acrid flavor, that flavor of black pepper, right? Spicy, but not spicy like cayenne or ginger, right? That is acridity. So kava is a cousin of black pepper. It's in the Piperaceae family. It's in the Piper genus. So black pepper is Piper nigrum. Kava is Piper methysticum. And so it has that very characteristic acrid black pepper flavor, plus like dirt. I always say that it tastes like pepper and dirt mixed together. But that acridity, that warming, spicy, diffusive effect is really effective topically. It's really, really lovely to apply to those areas where you just need to break up that tight stagnation. Ginger also is very effective for that. So you could not make this recipe. You could just make the base recipe, which is our kava ginger infused oil. So, and I'm going to go into infused oils in another class, but this is kava and ginger infused into grapeseed and coconut oil, with just a little bit of ginger essential oil added to that. So we're going to start with this as our carrier. And so we need to combine the oil and our emulsifying wax. This is what emulsifying wax looks like. We're making 120 mils, right? 30 plus 30 plus 60, 120 mils total of our formula, and we use 5% emulsifying wax. And that's what the emulsifying wax looks like. Can you see that? Just white little pellets. So we need to melt these into the oil. So emulsifying wax melts at about 120 degrees, a pretty low melting point, much lower than beeswax. Beeswax is a much higher melting point. So I'm going to put 30 mils of our, look at that lovely color, right? So this is 30 mils of our kava and ginger in here. And then I'm going to add the emulsifying wax. And I think I can, yeah, look at that. So we've got our oil and emulsifying wax melting together here, and we're just going to heat it up just to melt the emulsifying wax. We want to really minimize heat whenever we are working with oils, because oils really don't like heat. They get damaged by heat. So I'm just going to melt those together. So that is our oil portion. We can, again, use just plain oil. But we can also use infused oils. Now, you don't have to use kava and ginger oil. You could use, as we're waiting for this to cool, you could throw some arnica oil in there, right? Arnica oil would be great if you were using this for sore muscles, for tightness, for bruising. If you really wanted a strong therapeutic oil, arnica oil would be great. Goldenrod oil is also really lovely, and goldenrod is abundant. You know, I want to see your faces and doing this. Can I sit and do this? I could sit and I could kind of crouch. This is going to be bad. My Pilates instructor would be very mad at me for crouching like this. Look how rapidly this is melting, right? So we just need it. I'm even going to take this off and let the residual heat continue to melt those. Goldenrod is an abundant weed for many people. Goldenrod is lovely for sore muscles, for bruising, for wound cares, general support. Goldenrod is lovely. St. John's wort oil could be used if you want more nerve support and also just general vulnerary healing response. Same if you wanted a vulnerary oil, you could use calendula oil, right? If you wanted to be really warming, you could add cayenne oil, right? So you can add all sorts of different oils. The type of oil, we're finished watching the wax melt here. So I'm just going to set this aside and let this cool. So your oil is just the part of the ingredients. Your oil as a carrier can be a carrier of any number of different herbs that you want to infuse into those oils. And we'll make other recipes with other infused oils and talk about the qualities of those oils later on. How many mils is 5% on the wax? Great question. The wax is measured by weight. So mils is a measurement of volume, right? Milliliters. This is a 50 milliliter volume. So we're going to measure the emulsifying wax in grams. So 5% of our total volume, 120 mils, would equal 6 grams of emulsifying wax. Right? So you take your total volume in mils, multiply it by the percentage, 1/2 of 1%, and then use that in weight. So you're going to measure the weight of the emulsifying wax. Thanks for asking that. That's a great question. And we're going to see that kind of concept again later on. So there's our oil settled. Good morning, everyone. Yay. Oh, it's my pleasure to offer these classes. I really miss doing this. It makes me really happy to be back here. So there's our oil. Now, the other ingredient that we have here is the magnesium oil. Now, here's the thing. Magnesium oil is not an oil. It is a water, right? Because we're making an emulsification. We're making oil and water. Good morning, Lisa. So let's talk about magnesium oil. If you use magnesium oil on your skin, it has an oily feel to it, right? It has some slip. And that is because when we add magnesium to water, magnesium likes to grab onto water. Magnesium really, really loves to grab onto water. This is why magnesium is a laxative. It's not a laxative because it stimulates, it irritates the intestinal lining and initiates peristalsis, like things like senna or cascara sagrada or other laxatives do. Magnesium is a stool softener because it draws water to itself. It is an osmotic laxative, and so it draws water to itself in the colon and causes softer stools. In much the same way, if we're using magnesium chloride is just a magnesium salt. This is one that is widely available. It's just pure magnesium chloride crystals. So when you add magnesium chloride to water, it absorbs that water because it loves water, and it creates this kind of viscous, oily-like texture. But it's not an oil. It is a water. And so any recipe that has magnesium oil in it must be treated as a water. This is important later on. So we're going to use magnesium oil, and generally, by the way, if you want to make your own magnesium oil, it is super easy. You take magnesium flakes and you add them to water in generally a 1-to-1 ratio. So 8 ounces by volume of your magnesium salts, magnesium chloride salts, and 8 ounces by volume of distilled water. Heat them together, and the magnesium dissolves into the water, and that's how you make magnesium oil. It is super easy. which makes me annoyed when you see the prices that some companies charge for magnesium oil on the market. It's dirt cheap. It should not be an expensive product. It should be an inexpensive product, and it's very inexpensive for you to make it yourself. Now, there are other forms of magnesium that we use topically, most notably magnesium sulfate, which is Epsom salts. So we use Epsom salts the same way we use Epsom salts. We use magnesium topically for relaxation of the muscles, where locally, right? So we apply it locally, and it's going to help to relax and soothe the muscles in that area. I don't much like topical magnesium for increasing systemic magnesium status, right? If you are chronically low in magnesium in your whole body, I really don't think, irrespective of what people selling products are going to tell you, I don't think that topical application is that effective a way of getting your systemic magnesium status up to snuff. You really have to take it orally for that. But local application for sore muscles, tight muscles, muscle fatigue is going to be very, very effective. So we use Epsom salts as a way of getting magnesium to muscles. We soak in Epsom salts. We make Epsom salt poultices, and they're wonderful. However, Epsom salts have a ratio of magnesium and sulfur, right? Magnesium sulfate. And that sulfur is really beneficial. That's why Epsom salts are so beneficial to soak in. But if you're making an oil, the magnesium sulfate form is less effective. It isn't as shelf stable, and it doesn't have as much magnesium because the sulfur is taking up a large portion of the molecule, right? And so for magnesium oil, we really do want to use magnesium chloride because that is largely magnesium, a little bit of the chloride binding to it. So magnesium chloride, magnesium oil is the water portion of this recipe. Now, I like to use my magnesium oil. I like to make it double strength, which means I'm using 2 parts of magnesium to 1 part oil. So I'm using 2 cups by volume of magnesium flakes and 1 cup by volume of water. That really, really just saturates it with the magnesium. Good morning, folks. Oh, yay. So that's what we have here. So this is 60 mils of a double strength magnesium solution. Now here again, we're using magnesium oil as our water, but we can use other waters here, right? So some people find magnesium topical products to be a little bit itchy. They cause some irritation to the skin. It's because you have a salt on the skin, and salt on the skin causes irritation and itchiness. Many people find that placing aloe along with it really reduces the itchy quality of magnesium. So you could, if you are a person whose skin is very sensitive to magnesium, either don't make it double strength or mix some of it with some aloe vera juice. That would be that aloe vera is a water. It's a water soluble compound. So you could totally add that in there. You could also add a hydrosol if you wanted to, if you wanted to add in some chamomile hydrosol or a lavender hydrosol, anything like that. So we are using just the magnesium oil because that is really the basis for this recipe is the magnesium. So I've got magnesium oil is going to be 1 part of my water solution. Now I have another part of the water solution, which is the other major part of this recipe, which is, I'm going to put my magnesium oil into my larger beaker. The other part is Kava tincture. So I have Kava tincture. This is a 1 to 5, 65% dried Kava. And I'm going to use 1 ounce, 30 milliliters of Kava tincture. I have other videos on how to make tinctures, so you can go and find those if you're not familiar with making tinctures, or you can buy tincture from someone. But you know, tinctures are really inexpensive to make yourself and relatively easy. So, you know, whatever you want to do is fine. And also here again, I'm using Kava because I really like that. And for me, for this recipe, it's very, very important. However, you can change the effect of this recipe dramatically just by changing the tincture that you're using, right? If you're making a skin soothing cream and you used, say, calendula oil, calendula infused oil, you could add calendula tincture as the tincture portion of this and have a supercharged calendula infused lotion, right? So lots of different tinctures that you can use here. But I've got my Kava tincture here, and I'm going to add it to magnesium, my magnesium oil. Now you can see that Kava, I use a high alcohol percentage in the Kava, and you can see the magnesium is kind of bound to the Kava lactones, which are kind of oily compounds. That's fine. We're doing an emulsification, so they're not going to precipitate out of solution. If I did just this and left it there, then the Kava would kind of settle out because that's precipitation of oily compounds. But that's not going to be an issue. So we have our main things here. We have our infused oil with the emulsifying wax added to it. We have our magnesium and our Kava. And so now we're going to blend those together. We're going to emulsify them. Now, with the addition of the emulsifying wax, this is going to be super easy. Again, if you've ever made the rosemary Gladstar recipe and your heart is in your chest as you're putting them together, and you're making little offerings to the gods and burning incense and crossing your fingers and all of that to make it emulsify correctly, this is going to be just fine. So I've got my blender here. I am going to be turning on the blender in just a few moments. I'll give you a heads up, but if you're wearing earbuds or something, you're going to want to take them out or turn down the volume because blender, it's going to be loud. So I'm going to add my water. Let me bring this down. I love that I can do this. Alrighty, so there's my water portion here. And then I'm just gonna throw in the oil as we blend this. So you've got your little port here on your blender. So I'm going to turn this off. Now you don't need a blender. You could use a stick blender, a hand blender. If you have very strong arms, you could even possibly blend this by hand if you're using emulsifying wax and not if you're using beeswax. You really need that high agitation if you're doing it with beeswax. And also, you can't just substitute beeswax in this recipe. This is a recipe made for emulsifying wax. Beeswax would be a different recipe. Yay, Crystal. Oh, well, welcome. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to see the comments. And boop, boop, boop. I'll get to them after I do this part. Let's see. So I've got the water in there. I've got the oil in there. Generally, we like to add water to oil and not oil to water. But again, we're using emulsifying wax, and it says to hell with the traditional directions. We can do whatever we want because emulsifying wax is forgiving. So here I go. I'm going to turn on the blender. Watch out for the volume here, okay? How easy was that? Hello. All right. So I am done with you. Let's get you out of the way. We'll bring you over here. So if you were doing it without emulsifying wax, that addition of water to oil, or oil to water really is how you need to do it, would have to be done a drop at a time, very carefully, very gradually, so that you're slowly encouraging those ingredients to mix together. But we don't have to do it with this one. Now, this is still rather liquid because because it is warm and it will thicken as the cetyl alcohol, that's the fatty alcohol that's in here, as it comes to room temperature, it will thicken up very nicely. And I'll show you some of the formula. But there is our lotion. See how nicely the oil and water have come together. Now I'm going to, but we're not done. But we have got our emulsion base. So there's our emulsion base. It smells like kava, which smells like dirt. I like dirt. I love dirt. But if you don't want dirt. So Crystal, I have talked about beeswax actually considerably. So you are going to have to go back and watch from the beginning, because I'm not going to go through it again right now, just because I have talked about it at length. But yes, we do discuss beeswax here, but it is not a substitute for it, and it's not the same amount. So you will want to find a recipe that specifically uses beeswax. Crystal posted the name Rosemary Gladstar's Perfect Cream. That's a recipe that is widely available because it's Rosemary Gladstar. Of course, she's just sharing all of her information because that's what she does. But you can find that recipe and follow that recipe, modifying it with these ingredients. And that would be a beeswax-based recipe that you could make. All right, so we have our lotion base. Now, if all you were doing was making a lotion, you could just do water and oil and then emulsifying wax and one more ingredient. Because we've added oil and water together. So now, not only do we have an emulsion, but we also have a petri dish. This is a really important issue, especially with natural products. Makers is as soon as you add water to an oil-based formula, you now have a medium for bacterial growth. And if you do not preserve this, you are going to be growing a colony of all sorts of funky organisms. And the thing is that those funky organisms that are in the air, right? They're kind of all over the place. I follow good hygiene, but I'm not in a still room. I don't have a mask and gloves on and all of that because I'm making a little batch and this is just for me. There are microorganisms in here. And there will be increased microorganism growth if we don't stop it. There's confusion in natural products formulation between two categories of ingredients. There are preservatives and there are antioxidants. Antioxidants are things that protect oils from rancidity. That would be things like vitamin E, rosemary oleoresin, chaparral. Those are things that protect the oils from damage from oxygen. Oxygen causes oxidative damage, causes rancidity in oils. And it's a very important thing to protect against. However, antioxidants do not protect against bacteria and mold growth. For that, you need a preservative. Now, there are natural preservatives on the market. 3 primary preservatives of interest that you can look at for are, I should have written them down. I don't remember the brand names. I should remember the brand names. One of them is a fermented radish root. The name is like right there, begins with an L. Anyway, fermented radish root extract. There's an aspen extract. There's an honeysuckle extract. All 3 of those are very good preservatives for specific types of organisms and for specific practices. So Lucidol, that's the name. So Lucidol, Leucidal, is a fermented radish root extract that's often used as a natural products preservative. It's good. It's not a completely wide spectrum, but it is good. My favorite preservative right now is Optifen Plus. Optifen Plus. I always put important information on big letters right here. So that I know this. Crystal, can you add barberry, Oregon grape, or any other kind of wide spectrum antimicrobial agent as a preservative? No, it's not going to be strong enough. Likewise, you can't use essential oils as preservatives. Yes, essential oils are strongly antimicrobial, but to preserve a oil and water emulsion, you would have to have the concentration so high that they would be a dermal irritant at that amount. And so, nope, can't use the you can't rely on the tinctures or the essential oils. Now, you can if you're making it for yourself. If you're making it for yourself, your body is your own. Do whatever you like. If you are making it to give to other people, you must use a preservative, because you don't have the right to give something that might be growing funky stuff to someone else without protecting their body. So yeah, you just got to use a preservative. Preservatives inhibit mold growth, inhibit bacterial growth, and they can be very wide spectrum. Optifen is a combination of three ingredients: phenoxyethanol, caprylyl glycol, and sorbic acid. So it is considered an EcoCert preservative. It's considered to be a natural and quite safe preservative. One of the things that I like about Optifen Plus is that, so things that you want to be mindful of with preservatives is they have generally a range of pH that they work within. You have to be very careful if your formula goes above or below that pH range, you're going to neutralize the activity of your preservative. So that's one thing you want to look for when you're shopping for preservatives is what is the pH range. With Optifen Plus, there are no pH restrictions. So doesn't matter, not an issue. The other thing is temperature. For most preservatives, there's a range of temperature through which they're going to work. And if you go higher than that temperature, you're going to neutralize the preservative. It will not work. This one is used at a temperature below 176 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a very high temperature. I don't allow pretty much anything to go above that. However, remember that beeswax melts at 180 degrees. If I put this in at the very beginning, then melted everything, if I was melting beeswax in there, I would neutralize this, right? That's not going to happen. That's not when we put it in, but it's something to be mindful of. And then the third thing to be mindful of with your preservatives is the percentage range that they're used in. So this is 0.5 to 1.5% of the total volume of your recipe. Here we have 120 milligrams of a formula, and I am going to use a 1% preservative solution. So 120 mils, 1% is 1.2 milliliters. Phenoxyethanol is a good one, but it's only partial, and that's why they combine it with the sorbic acid, which is also good, but it has some limitations. When we combine preservatives like this, we get something which is a broad spectrum, very stable form. That's why I like the Optifen more than just the phenoxyethanol, and why I like it more than just potassium sorbate or sorbic acid, which are also often used. You'll see potassium sorbate as a preservative in like aloe veras and liquids that are taken internally. It's a food grade preservative, and it is relatively safe. So I'm going to get 1.2 mils of my preservative, and I like the little pipettes like this because they're really easy to measure out. Now it doesn't measure to 1.2, but I'm just going to go to 1-ish. Ish is fine because I'm not doing it again for sale. This is for myself. So I'm just going to add that to my formula, which has been cooling down. So I'm absolutely sure there's no heat that's going to neutralize it. Don't have to worry about pH changes, but this is a relatively neutral pH formula. And I'm going to blend it really, really well. And now it is preserved. And now I'm not going to have bacterial growth in this formula. Now that I've kind of done all of that was time sensitive, what is it about aspen, honeysuckle, and fermented radish that does the antibacterial work so effectively? Or is it more that those are the ones that have been tested and standardized? Exactly, Teresa. Those are the ones that cosmetic scientists, and I don't know the chemistry behind them. No idea. It's super, super cool. I love that fermentation is a part of it, but don't know the mechanism behind them. But those are the three that have been exhaustively studied and found to be effective preservatives in cosmetic application. You know how much to use because it says it on the label. So it'll say this one has recommended usage 1.5 to 2.5. It says it on the label. I just put it in big letters because I don't want to sit there and search, and I'm getting old and my eyes are going funky. So I want it in big letters right there. Also, I have students that are using it. I want that information really clear for them. So you're going to look on the label for usage instructions. Okay, no label on this bottle. So you have just phenoxyethanol by itself. What I would do is, you're on the internet, go on the internet and you can find good information. There's I want to say Humblebee, and I don't know if that's the name, but I think it's Humblebee, is a website. They sell ingredients, and they have a really good kind of encyclopedia of cosmetic ingredients on there. And but it'll be really easy. Just do a Google search on phenoxyethanol usage, and you'll get recipes that use it. And we'll also have those limitations that you want to keep in mind. All right, so you can see the viscosity increasing as that emulsifying wax is cooling down to room temperature. It's going to continue to thicken up over the next hour or so. And I've been stirring. As we've been doing this, you want to stir in your preservative very, very well to make sure that it's all in there. But this is pretty much well blended here. So we've got our base formula. Now, one more thing that I'm going to add to this. So we have all of these ingredients have been added. We've added our preservative. Now we can also add essential oils to this if you want to either cover up the smell of dirt from Kava, or if you want to have the therapeutic effects of the essential oils. Now, for this, we have, again, 120 ml formula, and we have 12 to 36 drops of our essential oil formula if we choose to use that. Now, 12 to 36 drops of 120 ml formula is equivalent to 1 to 3% of your total formulation. And that is, that's going to be helpful. We keep concentration of essentials that low to stop any kind of irritation or problems. People have reactions to essential oils if they're used in too high a concentration, especially if you're going over the same area over and over and over again. So depends on your essential oil. Some you're going to use a lot less of, and some you can use more of. But that range from 1 to 3% of a formula is a good kind of safe range. So I am going to add an essential oil combination that I'm using a lot for my muscles and my hip and all of my boo-boos. And I am going to add 36 drops because I want to bump it way up there. And this is so fast. I'm going to say that's about 36 drops. This is a formula which is actually in a base of some tinctures. And so it is not 100% pure essential oils. So I don't have to be too careful with it. Plus, I use it undiluted because it's made to be used undiluted. So I'm not going to be as careful with that as I would with a pure essential oil formula. Ah, smells so good. Now I don't smell the kava. Now I smell the muscle melt formula. Humblebee and me. Yes, Trish. Thank you. Hi, Trish. Hi. Yes, thank you. Humblebee and Me. That is exactly the one. Thank you so much for that. They have a really great encyclopedia of ingredients. So I've got my essential oil blend in there. I often use just lavender with this. Lavender essential oil is nice, again, for those people who respond to the magnesium with itchiness. Lavender oil can also calm that down. Peppermint oil also is an antipruritic. Pruritus is itching. Antipruritic is something that inhibits itching. If you get a lot of itchiness from magnesium, you can add a little bit of peppermint oil or use a peppermint hydrosol as part of the water portion and minimize that itching. So there's our essential oil formula done, and that's our recipe done. Now, one more part that we're going to do to protect this is we're going to put it into a container that is a closed system. With creams and lotions, I vastly prefer an application method like this. This is a pump, right? And as soon as we put our ingredients in here and we're closing this up, now this is a closed system. Remember, I was saying that there's microorganisms all over in the world, and they can get into your product. If you have a jar full of cream and you're opening that jar up and you're putting your mitts in there and you're slathering it all over, your hands are also funky, dirty things. If they're going in there, you are introducing microorganisms. You're introducing them as soon as you take the top off, right? And the more often you take the top off, the more you put your dirty mitts in there, you're possibly introducing more and more and more microorganisms. So number one, wash your hands before you stick your hands into anything. Number two, use spatulas, use clean ingredients to go into those creams. But also, when you're making a formula, put it in a closed system like this. Also consider the higher concentration of essential oils that people who are making shelf-stable creams have to do in order to correct for your dirty mitts going into the formulas. You can drop down that preservation if that is a concern to you, or you can even avoid it completely. Shayna, hi Shayna. Oh, I love you. I miss you. If you're making a product for yourself, again, you don't have to put a preservative in it. If you're making a small batch, this is a small batch. I would use this up pretty quickly, especially since this is going on my muscles and I have a lot of sore muscles. So, this is going to be going all over the place. I wouldn't have to put a preservative in here. If I'm using it really quickly, if it's going into a closed system, I could avoid that, especially, and if I'm putting the rest of it in the refrigerator to inhibit mold growth, right? So there's a lot of other ways that we can minimize introduction of cooties in here. Cooties is the official term. So here we go. There's our cream. So now I can apply this directly onto my skin. Really lovely slip, even though the cetyl alcohol hasn't solidified completely, so it'll get a little bit more viscous. It is a really lovely, smooth formula. And it's going to absorb in very, very nicely because it is an emulsification of oil and water. You're not going to have the oily quality that just body oils do, right? Some people don't like oils because they're oily and maybe their skin doesn't absorb them so much, so they stay on the surface. Of course, that also depends on the type of oil that you use, and I did not go into that today, although talking about the makeup of different oils is something that I love to do, and I will definitely do a class on different oils and the chemistry of each of the oils that will allow you to choose between grapeseed oil and coconut oil and avocado oil and fractionated coconut oil and all the different types of oils on the market. But we're not going to do that today. Today, we're just using this one. So, so a lotion is nice for people who want that rapid absorption. It is, Lissa, hi. Yeah, I'll do the oil class. When I do it for my students, it's super fun. We get all the oils out and then we do, we place them on the inner part of the arm. Those technical terms get to me. In part of the arm, and then we wait to see, you know, how they're absorbed. What happens after a half an hour of hanging out like this in class with all of the different dots of oils. It's really helpful to see what your body likes and also what other bodies, how other bodies are responding. So I'll definitely do that. We just won't be able to do that in person unless you come to see me in Long Beach, and then I'll do it in person with you. There's your recipe. It's really easy to do. If you're not sitting here and chatting with people as you're making it and having to explain it, I can whip out this recipe as long as I have the infused oil ready to go. I can whip this out in like 15 minutes. I mean, it's quicker than driving to the store and buying a lotion. I can make it more quickly. And of course, as with any time you're making products your own, I have control over every portion of this. I have control over the quality of the water and the quality of the oils and the type of preservation, and every part of this I have control over. And so I like that. So it's easy to make. It's fun to make. Emulsification is sort of magical. And again, you can find other types of emulsifiers, but I encourage you to play with emulsifying wax. Really, once I started playing with emulsifying wax, I'm not going back. It is so effective. It is so easy to use. I really adore it. Feel free to take this basic recipe, this basic concept of making lotions, and play with it. Play with it. You can't go right. You can go wrong. And if you go wrong, you'll make a product that won't blend together. It'll split up. That's okay. Shake your jar really well before using it. Use it up really quickly. When you have products that didn't come out the way that you expected, they're not quite up to your standards, they're still very good if you have used high quality ingredients through all of them. And the benefit of that is now you have a big jar of something that you don't really want to use, but you want to use it up because you made it and it's filled with good stuff. Get naked and slather that stuff all over your body. We rarely do that because generally when we buy things, we have precious little bottles and it's so precious. I'm going to use it so carefully. There is something incredibly healing about having an abundance of something that you have to use up. That's also, Shayna, I'll bet you can feel this one when you have made a cream or a lotion mix or whatever, and you have the container that has the residue of your salve, right? Your salve or your infused oil, whatever. You got to clean out that pot before you wash it. So you go in there with your spatula and your hands and all of that, and you just smear it all over everywhere. Get naked, smear the stuff all over your body, luxuriate in it, and then do the recipe again. Be mindful of where you messed up, and it'll turn out fine. So there you go. I hope this recipe was helpful for you. I hope you're feeling okay. Let me know if you're feeling okay with the switch from Facebook to YouTube. I did this primarily just to increase access. Not everyone wants to be on Facebook, and social media is problematic for many people. So hopefully this will just be easier for people to get to. Anyway, love you. If you have any other questions, put them in the comments and I'll be sure to come back and answer them. I will look forward to seeing you on another Monday. Boop, boop, boop. Moving. I will be Savday's Naked Smearing Body Care Day. Yay, Naked Smearing Body Care Day. I will be moving a lot of the Facebook videos over to here so people can access them. But we have a lot of videos over there. And they were made as live stream classes. So they're kind of funky, and people are like coming in at the beginning of class and we're chattering and all of that. And the YouTube algorithm gets pissy about videos like that. So I have to clean them up before bringing over here. And so I will be doing it. I will be doing it. Love you all. Thank you so much for coming. I look forward to seeing you again at the next one. Have a good day. If you have today off, have a good day off. We honor the people who have died in service to the country and in service to something bigger than themselves, even though the country and the things that are bigger than themselves are really problematic. The people who put themselves in harm's way to protect us, we always honor them, irrespective of how we feel about the war machine and the country and all of that. We always want to honor and respect those people who have died in service to us. So thank you to them. Thank you to all of you, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye. Come on. There we go.